Now before I get started on the airbags and everything on the Gremlin, I want you not to be confused. I'm putting airbags on this to replace having to buy air shocks, which sounds silly, but it was a lot cheaper to put airbags on this to help with the payload and the tires from rubbing than it was to put air shocks on it. And I feel a little better control on what I can do with the air and no air and all that. But just letting you know, I'm not cutting the leaf springs, I'm not lowering it, I'm not making an airbag system to raise and lower the car, and ride strictly on bags. This is just help with the payload and whatever else. So, alright, well, in this video I'm going to actually do the airbags on the Gremlin, but I thought I would share this because all morning I've been working on trying to get my brake lights to work proper, which they had a weird gremlin electrical problem. If you turned on the headlights, one of the brake lights would stay on, and then if you didn't have the tail light or the headlights on, the passenger brake light would actually get bright, and the driver's side would only kind of get dim. So, like I said, it's a weird deal. So if you turned on the headlights, the brake light on the driver's side would actually be bright as a brake light, and then the passenger side would be dim as in running lights, and then if you pushed the brakes it would actually light up, and blah blah blah. Anyways, I redid the wiring in the kicker panel here. That was all corroded. If you follow on Instagram, I put some pictures of that when I was trying to first get the tail lights working again. And then I've replaced the sockets, the bulb sockets in the actual tail light housings. Put a new headlight switch, new brake light switch, just everything I could do, and they still wouldn't work. Signal lights would work fine, but anyways, I decided to tear into the signal switch, and it turns out the flashers switch was always broken, but it turns out it was partially melted. It's like got a little plastic thing that kind of shields it from touching anything, and it was actually kind of sideways and jammed, and it was shorting or jumping part of the brake light signal light deal. But anyways, I tore all that off, and now I got brake lights, tail lights, signal lights, headlights, all that stuff. And for some reason or another, none of this ever worked, even when I put a new headlight switch in. But now the fuel gauge works along with the dash lights. So what a bonus, I guess, right? But and the gas gauge seems to be pretty accurate. I filled it up a couple of days ago, and I've probably driven it 30-40 miles, so probably pretty accurate. So anyways, I just thought I'd share that fixing one wiring problem, and wasn't even trying to fix these problems, and hey, now they work, so that's a bonus for me. Alright, well anyways, I'm gonna get started on the airbags, but I thought I'd share that first. Alright, well I got the old drag road slick off, and the AMX, it's got factory hop bars on it, so I was kind of limited on where I could put my little airbag, but I ended up putting it here and then bringing a piece of angle iron out slightly to mount it. Now there's probably a way better way to do this, but if you follow me, then you already know I'm really dirt cheap. So these are semi-cab airbag shocks, whatever you want to call them. They're pretty cheap. I just get them at the local, well, it's called TNT Springs over here, but they sell like all trailer parts and the semi brakes and all that kind of stuff. Kind of like a Fleet Pride sort of down in the south. Well, up here it's TNT Springs. These things extend out like, I don't know, twice its size, so probably about a foot if you really wanted to get after it. But same ones I got on the AMX, they work good, they're cheap. So for two of these, and 2 of these, it was like 90 bucks. And some of the actual just airbags you can buy without any bracketry and stuff can cost 90 bucks just for a bag. You know, high-end ones and stuff. But anyways, so my thought on this is to remove the bump stop there, axle stop, and stick this one in a little further back and get a U-bolt that'll fit around the axle with the thing on it, and then get a couple spacers high enough so this thing doesn't hit, and then cut out a piece of 1/8 inch steel. You know, drill the hole out. This can sit in there, boom. Some spacers on the U-bolt. I gotta make sure the U-bolt's long enough. Screw that thing in there. Got the spacer so this doesn't hit. And this all just kind of rides, you know, in here somewhere. And then just get a piece of angle stock and just kind of run it like here, since this is an arch, and have the angle stock going up under here, and just weld it, kind of box it in like this, and you know, be able to put this in. This is designed to have like a E-clip on it to keep it from coming out. But you know, for the gremlin, it doesn't have that much weight and all that stuff, so it'll be fine. Like I said, there's probably way better ways of doing this, or just putting air shocks on it, but I kind of like doing these. They're cheap. I can go get them anytime they blow up, and these are probably like, I don't know, $35 a piece. So that's kind of what we're gonna do. I'm gonna have to go run and get a few parts. I thought I had some U-bolts and stuff the right diameter, but I don't. But I'm gonna run and go get some of those, and start getting after that, and get a couple airbags. And the only reason I'm doing that is it actually doesn't rub on the driver's side. But on the passenger side, for some reason, when you hit a pothole or anything, it only rubs on the passenger side, and not very much, and it's in the back right in here. There's a little polished area where you can tell where it rubs, but same thing, nowhere else in the wheel well does it rub. And I just kind of want to throw these in there, and the reason I think it only does it on the passenger side is the spare tire goes kind of on the passenger side and inside the back of the gremlin, so it's putting more weight on there. But my homemade shackles are working good, and AMC Rebel shocks are working good. Like I said, they're about 2 inches longer. Get a little bit more height out of them for the fat tires and all that good stuff. So, alright, well, I'm gonna go get parts hunted down, and I'll bring you back when I start getting something built. Okay, well, it's been a couple days since I last made anything on this. Nobody had 2.5 inch exhaust clamps, imagine that. Had to wait. But anyway, so the exhaust clamps will clamp around the axle, threaded coupler, nut thing, whatever you want to call it. And then this is just something I kind of threw together. I've actually got different ones already made, but piece of angle iron. So the inside face of the tire is like here. So with this will protect the fitting coming out of the airbag. So basically, the airbag will, I'm going to keep him from rolling around here. The airbag will sit in there somehow, some way. There we go. It'll sit in there. This will thread into that, and then that'll kind of keep that from, you know, tire blowing up or something. And then these will basically be bolted in there like that to give enough height for the 90-degree fitting in there. And then the bolts I got are grade 8. They'll screw into this, and they're only about, the heads of them are actually only about as thick as this giant washer, and that'll fit there perfectly. So basically this will sit on that, that'll keep the bolts from touching any of that, same thickness, and that'll be kind of normal. But get something built here and then I'll bring it back.
Right, so that's basically the setup there. Got the threaded coupler working as a spacer. My grade 8 bolt there, that big washer. And then my angle iron. And then, like I said, the tire's going to face here. So I've got the jack stands on the axle, so there's no weight picking up off of the car yet. But I don't need to go up much, as I've already explained. It really only rubs on the other tire a little bit. So just filling these up with air, I think, is going to be more than enough to actually bring this up so the tires can't hit anymore. And still give it a little bit of a shock absorbing. So basically now I took the bump stop, axle stop, whatever you want to call it, off. And then I'm going to take a piece of angle iron and just weld him like that, enough space to be able to put an E-clip on there, and then that guy will ride in there. Then throw the airline on and run the air desert or whatever you want to call it to the back there, and this side will be done. Okay, so something kind of like this here. Now, depending on how you want to approach this, a guy could just drill and tap a couple bolts to hold this thing in. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that or just grind this and weld just the ears in, but that's up to you. Depends on what you want to do. And then obviously this isn't like a super good setup for probably towing something or hardcore drag racing or something, but it's just a simple way to get you by. But anyways, I'll carry on and get this one and the other one done so we can put the car on the ground before I put air in it, and put a little air in it and see what the... Since I'm pretty much out of weld, I decided to just tack these bolts into the frame here. And then this guy should, you know, once I drill out the holes a little bit for it, bolt right on there. I got that hole drilled, and that'll all kind of come together. And what I did with those cheap headers I get, they always send me these bolts, and I drilled that out just enough to where I could take that bolt and hammer it in with a hammer so it'd stay nice and, you know, pretty much just stay in there. And then I'll just tack or weld around it like this here and that there, and that way I don't have to weld the whole piece of metal to the frame. And then if I ever want to take this off, just take it off. There's about that much room between this bolt and the tire still, so it'd have to be a heck of a tire to touch those bolts, and they don't actually stick out any further than the body here. So anyways, I thought I'd just show you that. Like I was saying, on the other side, I drilled these holes just big enough to get one of these kind of smashed in there, and then I can weld them on like so. That way you can't go anywhere. I'll do the same to that, and then we'll throw on our drilled piece, which I got to drill these holes in bigger for those, but you get the idea. Like that. Just threw them in, welded them in there. Of course, I'll throw a little spray on those to keep them from rusting. Bolt that thing down and be able to stick our airbag in there. Just like that, we got the passenger side done. And then right there is where the tire would rub. Sure, I could take a hammer and smash that in a little bit, but I think it's rubbed a little bit up here too. So we'll just put these on there to throw a little air in them to lift up the back end a little bit and keep the tires from touching the metal. So I found these perfect little notches. Where's he at? Right there. Already on the gremlin with these air zerts or whatever you want to call them, can fit right into. Then also, probably won't be able to see it, but there's a perfect little hole directly above it where a guy could also just drill right through here and stick them, but I don't feel like drilling any holes in it. I'm just going to use that little notch. I can't tell you that it's really anything because it's not a weep hole.
So, yeah, I don't know what those are for, but there's two perfectly on each side. Maybe somebody knew I was going to do this in the future and pre-made that for me. That's where them bolts are. Like I say, quite a bit of distance between them and the tires. So, well, we got our little air valves in and getting ready to put it on the ground. Haven't inflated the bags yet, so put her on the ground and then we'll throw some air in them and see what the best way of doing all this since it's just me. But I'll stick a little foam thing right there by the tire. The bag is depleted, so it went up about ½ inch. Bag is good. We still have some room to go, so that's pretty good. That should keep the tire from rubbing when we got a full load. Now, driving this car with just me in it, it never rubs, or just me and my wife. But if we're driving this car and we got the spare tire in the back and the jack and anything else, then that passenger tire is the one that actually really starts to have any kind of rub. So this side here really doesn't rub at all. I don't know if the leaf springs are a little better or what, but there you go. There's that one. We'll go ahead and throw a little air in this one over here. Like I said, don't have to even put very much in them. They expand right up, so. Alright. Still got some spring to it, so I think that's going to work out pretty good. That should keep us from rubbing and get just a little bit more height on the gremlin. So, alright, well, I appreciate you guys watching. I'm going to be going on vacation here soon, so hopefully I'll have a little bit more time to make some videos. So we'll see you in the next one.